Hello, everybody, and welcome to Grand Slam KBO, our weekly podcast on the Korean Baseball League. This is week 13 for us, and on this show, we'll be devoting most of our attention to the KBO's bottom club, Hanwha Eagles. Grand Slam KBO Hall of Fame Edition 12 will be here towards the end of the show as well. You can find us on social media at Grand Slam KBO, at Chimek Baseball, and at Grand Slam Hider. Check out our YouTube channel for more videos and content on Korean baseball. My name is Andrew Farrell, and this week we have an all-star cast featuring Matthew Kerr, a returning Bradley Hyder, and Hanwha's long-suffering fan, Virgil Hodges. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Good. Let's start quickly with Bradley. We haven't spoken to you for quite a while. It got too big for us after your ESPN appearance.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I was traveling a little bit. I think I may have found a book, one of my two books that I read every year. So,
and now with the Hall of Fame coming up later, you're still sitting on that big fat donut of zero nominations into the Hall of Fame. This could be your week, though.
Could be. Yeah. I'm very optimistic.
Matthew, hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. In honor of Virgil Hodges, who's patiently waiting on the line, you're sporting a classic Bing Gray Eagles uniform there.
That I am. Just a bit of a lovely little replica with a slight change to Gunpowder Family on the right shoulder.
For anybody who's watching or listening to this who wants to get hold of old KBO uniforms, is there a particular site or store that they can purchase beautiful merchandise like that?
There are a couple. I believe that Jagermeister is still licensed to do quite a lot of the old uniforms and jerseys. Thomas St. John, who is involved quite a lot in old uniforms, he has a large collection that I believe he sells on occasion. And it's possible, if you have the specifications, to get them custom made as well, much like I did for my Chungbo Pinto's uniform. But usually Jagermeister is the way most people go.
Cool. Yeah, good love. I might post a link to that at the bottom. Yeah, some of their uniforms are absolutely brilliant. And dreads are okay. Virgil Hodges, we spoke to you 2 years ago on the show. Welcome back to Grand Slam KBO.
Thank you for having me. How are you guys?
We're all good. How are you doing, though? I think this is the big question with the Eagles propping up the table yet again.
It feels like before 2018. The long life of a suffering Hanwha Eagles fan.
This week or this month, there seem to be some signs of a turnaround in their season. They seem to be playing a little bit better. I remember reading at one point they'd lost whatever it was, like all 8 games or something against the LG Twins, and then they turned around and swept them, didn't they, last week?
Yeah, they had lost, I believe, the first 8 or 9, and then, they swept the 2-game series. So that was their first and second, and then they ended up actually winning 3 in a row for the first time on the entire season.
Just before I let the boys come in here as well, I think I read you writing one time on my KBO, you can correct me if I got this wrong, you called yourself a baseball fan first and a Hanwha Eagles fan third. So where are your other allegiances when it comes to baseball?
I'm from Missouri, so I am a St. Louis Cardinals fan before a Hanwha Eagles fan out of longevity.
Cool. And Kim Gwang-hyun, part of that roster now?
Yeah, it helps definitely because now I can actually watch some Cardinals games without needing the MLB package from back in the States. So saves me $100 a year, so that's good.
I got to admire your persistence with the Hanwha Eagles because Bradley over here, as we know, changes clubs regularly enough. He'll follow the team that tends to appear near the top of the table. Maybe you could teach Bradley a thing or two on how to really support a baseball club. So no games anymore. Do you want to let us know, Virgil, what it was like for your experience inside the ballpark before the government made the decision to close them down again?
Yeah, I mean, so Hanwha didn't get to have games, didn't get to have fans back the same time that the other clubs did because we had a late surge of infection. So once we were allowed back in, I went back. It was a Monday makeup game, and I actually got there an hour and a half early because I was expecting it to be really difficult to get in, and it was a rainy day, so there was actually nobody in line. So I went, and you just do these little things where they check your temperature, you do a QR code to get in, and then from there, like you go in and they got little markers on the floors everywhere that says like 1 meter. And then you have the security people walking around with signs saying 1 meter and masks and all of that. And it was definitely strange. Like it had almost like a creepy feel to it. Like, you know, you're sitting in there in the stands, and like you can hear everything.
Yeah.
Like you can hear they were playing SK, and I could hear the SK players like yelling from the dugout. Like you can hear the camera shutters. Like
Wow.
the strangest thing to me is like you can hear the bullpen phone ring, which is my seats are on the first base side, and you can actually hear the bullpen all the way in left field, past the left field wall. You could hear it ring like it was next to you. It's just really, really strange feeling.
Bradley.
Would you describe it similar to the maybe the atmosphere of a team practice?
It almost felt like if you've ever been to a spring training game, it was kind of like that, but like way more subdued. Like because you don't have people up and cheering, and SK, like they're 9th place team, so they don't have fans traveling, and most people aren't traveling, so there was no like counter to the Hanwha side. So normally when you go to a KBO game, you have both teams going, but because of this, you don't. So it was just Hanwha fans basically.
You mentioned there that the stadium was kind of cracking down on cheering. Like I went to a game over in Jamshid myself, and they were a lot more lax about the restrictions. So could you tell us something about how strict Daejeon was when you went there for the cheering culture, or if it changed at all as the guidelines progressed?
Yeah, this was one of the hardest things to get used to. So before I went to the game, I'd read in Korean all of the little things that like they can't cheer, there's no team cheers and all of this. And I'd watched some of the games for, I think, the Doosan game, but they, like in the Doosan game, the fans were up cheering and stuff like that. But then when I got to Hanwha, we couldn't stand up for anything. Like if, the team had actually come from behind to tie it, and we couldn't stand up to cheer when Hanwha scored a run, which was really, really strange. So like if someone would stand up, the cheermaster would like get on the microphone and be like, sit, 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 sit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it like compared to the other leagues, the rest of the league and the other teams I'm seeing, I'm just like, this is a little much. Like why, there's nobody in my section because of the rain. I was the only person in my entire section, my 3-row section. Like nobody else was there. And I can't stand up and like be excited for a team coming back.
Yeah.
And it was just that was the hardest thing to get used to, was not being able to stand.
Would you say it was more like a gentle, like, oh, let's sit down and be happy sort of reminder, or like, like sit down and shut up, sort of get back in your seat sort of feel?
I would say it was more of a sit down and shut up feel, because
Really?
because everybody's excited and he's the cheermaster. And so you're supposed to be like ready. and cheering and everything. And then, but as soon as he sees somebody get up, he would like go to the mic, sit.
So it's kind of like the guy in South Park where it's just like hitting the kids like, sit down and study. Do your schoolwork.
I don't want to sound too harsh or beat around the bush too much in this, but it's not like the Eagle fans get a huge amount to cheer for. You think that in a comeback game like that, or a couple of runs against the best team in the country, they might allow them to this one opportunity to express the sheer happiness at scoring a run.
Yeah, like that was the thing, is like, I understand like no singing and stuff like that and no sitting next to other people, but like to not let you stand up and cheer, that's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, the weird thing was like Jiho, you contacted me as well about our experiences in the stands for his article he put out a week or so ago. And like one of the follow-ups he had was he asked the league a bunch of questions, and from what it sounds like, there was no guideline from the league itself against fans standing up. Like, do you think that the Eagles cheerleaders or the Eagles staff just took it a little bit too far, or do you think that was like a mixed message where the initial thing came down from the league of be strict on it and then lax afterwards, and then they just forgot to lax it off after a while?
Yeah, I obviously I can't comment for him because I don't know what directions they're getting, but yeah, it felt weird to me, and I mentioned that to Jiho as well, how it was so different watching on TV versus being at the stadium. And another thing is like I was at one of the Samsung and Hanwha games, the KT, or I can't remember, KT or Samsung, and those fans were standing up and cheering on the other side.
Yeah. Just I want to ask both of you guys a question, because unlike I only went to a football game while sport was allowed back in. I didn't make it to a baseball game. And I know Bradley hasn't been to one for a while either. There's a possibility that this could just open up like this, open and close like this for at least till the end of the season, and then possibly next year too. And then who knows after that. The experience that Matthew and Virgil, the experience you guys have at a game, is that something you think you could just get used to, or is it hard to go and watch baseball in the stadium if these are the things you have to adhere to?
I mean, like, I love baseball, so I go watch Hanwha, who's has a 220 winning percentage. I go to watch baseball. The cheerleading aspect is what makes the KBO better for the fan than the MLB. But to me, like, without the cheering and stuff, it really felt like an MLB game. So I wouldn't say like I wouldn't go to it, but I have a feeling that many Koreans would not want to go to it because it would take away a huge experience that is part of the KBO.
That could entirely be like just based on the experience you had in Daejeon, because in Jamshil, I'm sure that a lot of the fans on the Lotte side were not really following the guidelines. But even from the Doosan side, like, they had a culture together about cheering, where they replaced a lot of the key points with like thunderstick claps or other such like that. Myself and a few other fans on the Lotte side actually managed to start chants ourselves by just starting the clapping, and then the rest of the fans would join in shortly afterwards. Like, there's enough of a established cheer culture from people who already know the KBO that it's going to be quite easy for people to adapt to it, provided stadiums like Daejeon will relax their restrictions a little bit. But just to me, like, not being able to stand up seems a little bit excessive.
Sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Brad, you bought yourself a nice little Dinos outfit for this season, didn't you? And you can't even bring it to a ball game anymore. Oh, you have it here.
Oh, I think
he's
I got a great
got
message.
props.
I can't watch the game without it. There we go. There we go. That's there it is.
Do you want to explain to the people watching who don't have this is audio only?
Yeah,
What
it's like it's like a Halloween mask made out of if you've ever had a Halloween latex mask, but it's pretty big, like, and you actually see out of, I don't know what part of the mouth, where there's sort of, I guess if dinosaurs have lips, it's the corners of the lips where you see out of it. And it's latex, man. It's hot. It does not breathe. And sometimes when I'm watching the game in my Dinos jersey, I put this on, and I get a straw and I drink my beer.
That was the question. Can you drink with that on?
It can be done, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't have it if you couldn't, but it's possible. The only question is now, should I get maybe a bear, a lion, and a tiger for when I change my team?
Oh my!
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is my. I think this would be a lot of fun at a ball game, and that's why I bought it. So
the Dinos have that guy with that really cool outfit who turns up to the game sometimes, and even makes.
Yeah, I've met him a few times. We've had. I'd like to say I've had a few drinks with him, but I don't think he's drinking because he can't. But I can. But yeah, he's kind of my inspiration. And so yeah, I did the Amazon search latex Halloween mask, and this was the best product. I mean, this is a Velociraptor sort of thing. So not as friendly as maybe as a plant-eating Brachiosaurus, but this is the dinosaur I see when I think of the NC Dinos. That's that.
Excellent. Very good. So that's the cheering out of the way, I guess. A look at what baseball was like before it got shut down again. I know none of us here are working for the KCDC, obviously. We're only reading what we can online, but does anybody have any... Okay, actually a different question I want to ask you, because I know that Virgil was engaged in a conversation about this on Twitter. The idea of potentially moving the 5 Seoul and Gyeonggi-do teams away from the capital area, their home ballparks, to play somewhere else, like in Pohang or Ulsan or whatever. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Do you think it'd be unfair, or does it not really matter without having any fans?
If there's no fans allowed, then that's going to have some benefits in terms of just maintaining distancing for a lot of the fans and for the players in general. But the argument could then be made, if the players live next to the stadium already anyway. Like, I know for relative safety anyway, I know that the Lotte players live within a 10-minute walk of the stadium for the most part. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue for them to stay in their home ballparks. If fans are allowed, however, it's a terrible idea, because it would just end up getting more people traveling between areas, which increases the risk of exposure via public transport, via KTX, via bus, via rail, whatever. And then inside of the cities, which otherwise may have had a low occurrence of the virus, will suddenly have a lot more risk factors involved.
Yeah, Daejeon could be sharing that nice little stadium in Cheongju with the Doosan Bears, maybe. Yeah, it'd be interesting if the Doosan Bears had to go back to the greater Daejeon area to play their home games, since they were originally from there as well. What are your thoughts then on those? Yeah, sorry, Virgil.
Yeah, so obviously, like, I think it could definitely happen. But I think now what we're seeing is, I know Daegu yesterday reported 30 cases. So now we're talking about, that's a possibility where maybe they're having too much. But when we talk about like fans being able to go in, I don't think that would be an issue at all, because if the fans are allowed to go back in, then they're probably able to go back to their home stadiums. So without fans being in the stadium at all, I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if you look at what the MLB is doing, I'm a Cardinals fan, and they just played a doubleheader where they were the home team in Chicago for the second game of the doubleheader, and they were the away team for the first game of the doubleheader. So it's obviously being done in the MLB, where you're having other teams play, but
I find I agree with you, Virgil. It's being done in the MLB. I mean, my team, the Blue Jays, they're playing in Buffalo at a modified minor league baseball stadium. And to switch sports for a moment, the NHL matches are all being played, but either in Edmonton and Toronto. And I think the sort of feedback I've heard from fans and journalists in the NHL is that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't seem to be an overwhelming advantage for any team. As long as they get to play, people can watch it on television. That's really what matters, I think. And the players are safe.
So the question I was going to ask you originally, then, good instinct on this. I know we don't have any of the evidence to back up what we want to say. Are you guys confident that you might be able to go watch a baseball game again this season?
I don't know.
Season?
Like, I hope so, but I severely doubt it. And if the stadiums do open up, I severely doubt my wife will give me permission to go.
Best case scenario, playoffs, but no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah,
I hope I'm
mean,
wrong.
There's going to be no tickets then if it's playoffs. Interpark's just going to reserve them all for the teams and for their like chaebol parent companies.
Oh, Interpark.
Uh,
A whole
is it
nother
worth noting-
situation.
Is it worth noting that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was no recorded transmission of the COVID-19 at any KBO or K-League events. There was a person who later tested positive, was not showing signs, but followed all procedures and no one else got sick. So unless I'm wrong, I just want to get that out there. It's worth noting that the restrictions that the KBO put in place, like them or hate them, love them or hate them, they seem to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's the same topic we talk about all the time, though. It's those churches. It's those churches, and I've seen all of you guys making those same points over and over again on the internet.
Virgil, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I mean, not really. I mean, to me, like, there was so many security people monitoring everything that, to me, like, I felt perfectly comfortable there. I felt more comfortable there than like going to, any other place, like going to Home Plus or even like walking to work, where here in Daejeon, I'd say 25-35% of people aren't wearing masks.
So have things in Daejeon actually gone up to the 2.5-ish like alert level at the moment? Because there's a board game cafe in Seoul I usually go to, shout out Dice Latte, but they ended up having to close doors for the gaming sessions because under like the 2.5 restrictions, all cafes and restaurants can do pretty much takeout only now, rather than allowing patrons to sit in during business hours. Has Daejeon gotten worse for that or anything like that?
Yeah, so that the 2.5 was nationwide. So now there was till after 9 o'clock, there's no sitting down in restaurants. The big franchises only do takeout and stuff. So I work for a really, really large academy. Now I teach kindergarten and like first grade, but so we don't have as many students, but our academy that teaches elementary, they are online now. And our academy that teaches elementary and middle school, they're online because they have I think it's academies, if they have over 350 students, then they have to go online. They can't do in person. But because we don't have 350 students, because we teach our kids 5 days a week, we are still doing in person. Now, if they go to the level 3, then we close down.
Okay. Well, there we go. Let's get on to the main part of this. We have to ask you then, Virgil, when we spoke to you before, as I said, the Eagles made it as far as the playoffs that year. It was a glorious single season in Daejeon. There hasn't been anything like it since then. There probably won't be either for quite a while, unfortunately. So explain to us, using whatever vocabulary that you really want, what is it like to be a Hanwha Eagles fan today?
Get the bleeper ready, Andrew.
The lawyers are contacted here. You have to be careful.
Yeah. So I think being a huge baseball fan, growing up with baseball, like how I see the game and how I see what Hanwha does is going to be different than a lot of people, a lot of like casual fans. For me, like, I mean, it's disappointing and like I would say it's embarrassing, but like it's baseball, so like I don't have any part in it, so I shouldn't be embarrassed. But at the same time, when I talk to somebody like wherever I'm at and they're like, oh, are you you like baseball? Yeah. Oh, who are you a fan of? And I'm like, Hanwha. And they're like, oh, so yeah, I mean, so like it's okay because I'm a fan of the team that I've lived in Daejeon since 2014. So I'm a fan of Hanwha. It doesn't matter if I move to Seoul or move to Busan or, move to India. I'm still going to be a Hanwha Eagles fan. I'm not going to change teams just because they're bad. But when I watch, it's really difficult for me as a fan growing up playing. I actually did some coaching and stuff before I moved here, like to see them make these mistakes game in and game out and year in and year out makes it really difficult to watch, where sometimes I'm just like, no, I got to turn it off.
Like, do you find that one of the major problems with Hanwha is that they continuously get like quality players in the draft and then just trade them away in efforts basically to have an immediate response in the coming season? Like, that seems to be a lot of the trade strategy for Hanwha that I've seen, that they'll trade, like Im Gi-young, when he was just starting to find his footing, they traded him over to the Kia Tigers. They ended up trading over what's his name? Muguil.
Oh, Chalamok.
Chalamok. They traded Chalamok away when he was finding his footing as well, and then eventually ended up trading him back in. Like, do you think that they just need to invest a couple of seasons into dedicating themselves to rebuilding? Like, what's it going to take to fix this Hanwha team? Theory craft for days, man. What do we got?
Non-politically correct answer or politically correct answer?
You can go PG-13. There we go.
Basically,
okay, we'll give you a 15. We'll give you a 15. Go on. You get an R rating.
Basically, the front office, years before, they would basically just try to sign any good player that was a free agent. They just throw all kinds of money at him with Lee Young-kyu, Jung-gun-woo, Jung-gu-ram, Lee Sung-yeol. Lee Sung-yeol was a trade-in, but they would just throw money at these older players. So they never developed their younger players. To me, like, watching them and their draft picks, there's nobody denying that they're picking the good players. It's not like, oh, why would you pick this person? There's nothing standing out to me about that. So to me, it seems like they don't know how to develop their players.
Yeah, like, it's weird though. You look at the Futures League and Hanwha at the moment in their division anyway. They've got them, LG, the Heroes, Doosan, and the Wyverns, and they're top of their division, like, by a game and a half. 58 games in, they're just dominating it. Why do they just not use this time when the season's basically a wash? Why not try and blood some of those new players and like continuously improve themselves? Like, that's part of why Doosan constantly end up so low in the futures. They have successful players that they then bring up, and that lends to the success of the main roster.
Yeah. So honestly, I have no idea what decisions go into these things. I mean, like, I'm going to name players here, even though I probably shouldn't. You got guys like No Shiwan, who last year, I think he batted 185 with twice as many strikeouts as he had hits. Until, the last few games, he's been hitting really well, but the guy's 19 years old. Why not leave him in the Futures League to learn the strike zone? Up until this week, he was batting below the Mendoza line for his career and for the year with twice as many strikeouts as he had hits. And then you have, and it's not like he's a defensive whiz where he leads the team in errors. So you have like guys that should be developing in the second league, in the Futures League, that they're bringing up who are absolutely losing confidence. When I watch the kid bat, and I say kid because he's still 19, him bad. I'm just like, the guy looks like he knows he's going to strike out. Like, let him get really successful in the first league or in the second league, then bring him up when he has confidence.
Yeah,
And
that
like,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and then they have, other guys who, I think their biggest problem is they are attached to their older players. Like, they keep offering these 2-year contracts to guys. When I look at their, their WAR, their batting average, their OPS and things like this, I'm like, why are you offering this guy a contract? Whenever, you got a guy batting 220 who's not playing defense, who's a DH, and who has 125 strikeouts on the season, but 14 home runs. Why is giving these contracts to these guys that are super old, and why are you continually playing them when other players are outperforming them? So, like, again, when I watch them and I look at the Futures League all the time, and I'm like, why is this person not coming up? Why do they keep bringing up the same guys who are not having success in the second league instead of bringing up different guys from who are not having success in the first league in the KBO? Why are they not leaving them in the Futures League, and why are they not bringing up the other guys to try out, kind of thing? To me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, agreed. Have you been following the Futures roster that much at all this season, or have you been looking into alternatives or some players that people should look out for that they could maybe bring up?
Yeah, I mean, I watch the Futures League, and I look and see, who's doing well and things like that, and it kind of just pisses me off, honestly. I hate to say it like that, but like, I see these guys, they got a catcher in the second league who has a career 300 average and who has like 12 strikeouts on the year.
Oh, that Hogan He guy? Or Hogan He?
No, I can't remember his name. Pucks, his name just escapes me for now. But yeah, like, he's sitting there. I just don't understand why they're not letting him come up. I mean, although Jaehoon is having probably, I would say, his best year for Hanwha right now. But in 2018, he was horrible. Mm. But they brought him up, and he would get one at bat at the end of the game. And, as baseball players are extremely repetitive and superstitious and routine, no one can get into a routine like that. Mm.
Yeah, I know that there's the guy I just mentioned, also Kim Chang-hyuk, in small sample size, has been looking good as a catcher for the Futures team as well. But it'd be interesting to see when they'll finally give these guys a break and give them some playing time. Like, when, after losing again today to Lotte, like, you'd think that the Eagles front office would be like, right, now's the time. There's no fans in the stand to get upset about losing their money. Now's the time to blood some of these new guys and just get the toes in the pond, so to speak, and just get them to play against KBO level hitting, which, as we all know, can be anywhere from single A up to MLB quality on any given day.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't make sense to me. Like, the catcher is Kim Chang-hyuk. This year he's batting 400. And he's not young. His first year in the league was 2010. So it's not like he's, a young kid. But if you look, he's got 5 strikeouts on the year.
That's
5.
Nuts.
That's just ridiculous to me. And you got another guy who, like, I don't have favorite players, but I do have guys that I'm like, oh, finally. Like, another guy, Kim Hae-sung, who has tremendous power, I think he's on like a 9-game hitting streak in the second league. But they continue to keep going with Song Kwang-min, who he's batting 220. He has 5 walks on the season. 5. He's hit into, I think, 13 double plays. Like, to me, like how, and he's not good defensively. How do you have these guys that you just keep going with instead of these guys that are performing in the second league? And what happens is they bring them up and they're like, oh, you can play in the 8th inning. And oh, you struck out and you won at bat, back down to the second league. Instead of, giving them a week of starts and a week of getting a feel for everything and then seeing how they do. They're like, oh, you had one opportunity, that was it, go back down to the second league. Here comes this, 35-year-old. Now he's going to play for the rest of the season. To me, it just doesn't make any sense.
Fully understand.
Yeah, you could probably do like a 5-hour podcast on the troubles with the Hanwha Eagles at the moment. Can I just ask you, Virgil, briefly about the foreign players as well? Fan favorite Jared Hoying went earlier on the season, a major part of the 2018 playoff challenging team. The Eagles have had mixed success, like pretty much every team in this league, when it comes to foreign batters and pitchers. What is your overall outlook of the foreign player recruitment in the last, pretty much since you came down in 2014?
I mean, they've had success. I mean, they definitely have had success. PA was very good, good defensively, had power, had speed. But then they brought in the new coach, and who didn't want to sign him, who wanted to sign his own. And then they brought in Nigel Morgan, who might quite possibly be one of my least favorite baseball players of all time.
Brilliant.
And I was just like, why are you signing this guy? He does not fit the East Asian mentality, the East Asian thinking, the Korean thinking of hierarchy and tradition. And they kept him in the second league, and then they ended up cutting him, and then they brought in different guys. Rosario was really good. But again, Rosario was they have these guys that are second and third reincarnations of each other. They have Kim Tae-gyun, who plays first and DHs. Then they brought in Rosario, who plays first and DHs. And then they have Lee Sung-yeol, who plays first and DHs. And then they have Chae-jin Hang, who plays outfield and DHs. So they just have they have different people that are the exact same versions of everything. They're not filling their needs, but they just keep signing the same people. And one thing, especially the last 2 years with Hoeing and Sampson, Hale, Suppold, and Bell, one thing that I noticed is the thing that most people that don't watch baseball or specifically don't watch Hanwha is their older players don't seem to care. Like, they just go through the motions. They don't run out baseballs. They don't get upset whenever, when they have an error, or they don't get upset whenever, they show no emotion. They show, to me as a fan, they show no heart. And that's the thing that I say, the biggest thing about Hoeing was he played hard. And those new guys, the Junganu or Jungwon, he came up and he saw that. And that's huge. That's not something that you can measure in a player, that you have to see in a player. And that's one thing with Suppold, who's not having the greatest year, but he is intense. He is giving everything. He's showing, if he gives up a home run, there was the GIF or the audio of him letting out some choice words when he gave up a home run. I love to see that. I love to see the fire and passion from the players, because the younger players need to see that. They don't need to see the guy that's, hits a grounder and doesn't even make it to the runner's lane box, and the shortstop bobbles the ball, and he would have been safe if he was running out the grounder. And so, as far as, even if their production isn't good, what they're showing the kids, what they're showing the younger players is huge for me as a fan to see.
It's an interesting point. For people who know anything about East Asian culture, the emphasis placed on elders and leadership from them is really important. So it must be frustrating as a fan. My question is, because we started talking about foreign players in the KBO. Brandon Barnes, I think he's one of the newest additions to the league. 88 at bat, or at the plate at bats, I should say. Have you been following his career in the KBO specifically, and if so, what are your thoughts on how he's done so far? I see his average is 227 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm following him, and the thing with Barnes is, you know, he's older. I think he's 35, 36. He had a really good year last year in AAA, and he turned that into what it is now. As far as like his performance, it's hit and miss, which is they're paying him $100,000, which is so cheap for a foreign player. Like, they're getting their money's worth of that. Definitely. He plays hard. Now he's playing first base because Kim Tae-gyun is injured again, where he's normally a right fielder, but he hustles, you know, he shows emotion, he gets upset, you know, at himself. He's not upset at others, but he's, you know, he's showing that he cares. He's showing that he tries hard. So as far as that goes, that's, you know, definitely a plus. His performance, 227, but his WAR is 0.54, which I think puts him in the top 5 for Hanwha, which is kind of gives you an example of how bad they are this season. So I think this is, yeah, puts him number 6 on the team with his 0.54 WAR.
Right.
Fair enough. And he was hitting 6 out of the order today as well. So quick fire thing for you to finish out the segment before we move on to the Hall of Fame. So, most important player for Hanwha this season. Who's impressed you the most? In 5 words or less.
Jung Jino.
Okay.
Solid defense.
Cool. Who has been the least impressive player for you?
Song Kwon-min. No defense, not clutch.
And what is the position that Hanwha need to fix?
Third base.
All right. So hopefully the Hanwha coaches got those bullet points and they'll be able to put them into practice. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to move on to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, let's have a chat about Hall of Fame. We had an interesting one last week with the oversized baseballs, celebrity first pitches, and for some reason, Park Chan-ho's hair.
I'm sorry.
The most unusual choice we've had so far. I always like when we get guests like Virgil or Rob or Jiho to come on, because you're just never really sure what they're going to say. We've had some crazy ones throughout the year though as well. Let's not forget the Seoul subway system and exit 5 or 8 to 6 at Sports Complex station. So Matthew, do you have last week's results ready?
Well, first off, an apology because I started the poll when we went live with the recording for this. So this poll's been running for 45 minutes at this point. But yeah, we do have far and away a massive loser in me for choosing oversized team baseballs. Park Chan-ho's hair came second with 5 votes. And yeah, celebrity first pitches, that Old Chestnut wins with 9 votes this week. So
Cool.
First off, massive shout out to the KBO community for getting 16 votes in 45 minutes. Well done. You've done us all proud.
So I have a 5-4 lead over you, Matthew. Is that right? And we've got 2 guests who have been successful so far as well.
We definitely had 1 successful guest. Did we have a second? Like Justin won with the water park.
Did Stephen Hendry win with the people in Jamshield selling beers and fish?
No, I won that one with the trash bags.
But that was an episode with me and Bradley.
Oh no, that was a different one. That was with Jiho and the Bat.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check that
Okay.
actually.
We'll have a look, but another big victory for myself. I'm delighted. I'm delighted with this. I don't think I'm going to win this week, but I'm really proud of my nomination in honor of Virgil Hodges. We'll get on to that later on. I think we should let our guest choose his nomination first for Grand Slam KBO's Hall of Fame.
This one is actually near and dear to me because Hanwha is the only ones that do not have this in the entire KBO. I am going with the 1 liter beer pitchers that you can purchase inside and outside of the stadium for 4,000 won.
Yeah. So Hanwha doesn't have those, no?
No, and they had them last year or 2 years ago. They had them for the first 2-3 weeks, and then they stopped carrying them again. They only sell the cans, and they have to pour the cans into the cups, and it takes forever to get everything. So yeah.
Is it like in Champions Field as well with those cans in a cup? Like I went to Champions Field like on 3 occasions, got stopped by security for carrying the can to my seat, put the can in the oversized cup, and they were like, "Okay, carry on, sit down."
No, that's absolutely ridiculous. But
it's wonderful. I love it.
No,
Great selection though.
Yeah, I had to do some research on this. I had a couple options, but I had to go with beer.
Yeah, the 4,200 won, I think it is in Jamshel for the leader is incredibly good value. But isn't it? I think it's like $7 or $8 in the Gochuk Sky Dome for a similar thing.
Or you can get Asahi for like 9 or 10.
Yeah. And the
but
dome.
you can carry them in though, and that's what's so amazing about the KBO is like you can buy them at the convenience store on the way and then just take them in, and then if you need refills then you can get them.
Yeah,
just go outside.
All you need is 2. Turn them into Thunder 6 afterwards as well.
Or hurl them at your least favorite player.
Yeah. Next up, I'd say let's have Bradley Hyder. He's been away for a while. Let's see if he can get off that massive donut.
My participation in this contest, if we'll call it, just is a reflection of my belief that winning isn't everything. So, I don't know if we have any hard rules about this. All of the nominations have to do with the KBO, and that's fine. But if there's a rule, I'm gonna break it. I just want to be very specific because it can be a broad topic. Is with the recent passing of Chadwick Boseman and my love of baseball, I want to nominate specifically his role in the film 42, which for those of you who've never watched movies is the story of Jackie Robinson. And at my age, I learned about Jackie Robinson, but I think maybe the generations below me may not have learned or not have the opportunity to learn about what Jackie Robinson did. So what I like is how he brought that to the screen for everybody, but especially the younger generations. And obviously his performance was amazing. Also the behind the scenes sort of performances of people who we may not know about, his supporters and detractors. And his widow, Mrs. Robinson, said, "I love the movie," and I quote, "I love the movie. I'm pleased with it. It's authentic and it's also very powerful." So that tells me that he put a lot of effort into work to demonstrate the real character of Jackie Robinson and not stretching it out like Hollywood sometimes does. So I want to nominate him, specifically his performance in the film 42. If you haven't seen it, what better time than now?
I wholeheartedly second that people, if they have not seen it, absolutely must watch that movie and learn the history. Like, the man set the stage for so many of the great players we've seen in MLB, KBO. Like, if it weren't for him, then my selection wouldn't have ended up getting into the KBO to begin with because he'd have never been given a shot. So before we move on to my selection, Andrew, Virgil, do you have anything you'd like to add on to that?
No, it's a good one. That's very timely too. It's a good session. I think you'll definitely get a lot of favor for that one. That was Yeah, it's in the news obviously these days, unfortunately. But yeah, it's definitely a good shout out.
Yeah, just basically like it's strange or coincidental or some other power that he passed on Jackie Robinson Day in the MLB. So like putting those two things together, I mean the timing, and I want to say the timing is good, but also the timing is bad, as anytime someone passes is bad. But yeah, I mean, definitely watch the movie and understand kind of like more of the history of baseball instead of just the game.
Interesting, yeah, how it was on Jackie Robinson Day. And for those that don't know, what was to be Jackie Robinson Day 2020 was just a temporary thing. Like many events this year, Jackie Robinson Day was postponed. It's usually, I believe, the 15th of April. So it's not even the annual Jackie Robinson Day. So very, very unique indeed.
Well, cheers to Chadwick Boseman and cheers to Jackie Robinson. So my nomination for the Hall of Fame is another Montreal connection. My recommendation is Tyrone Woods, who in his first season won the Hitters Championship and the Home Run Championship as well, ending up with 42 home runs and over 100 hits for the season, where they hadn't fully adapted into a 9-team league and they hadn't gone on to the 130-odd game monstrosities that they have now in each season. But yeah, Tyrone Woods, like the legend among the foreign players, and kind of set the stage for what an MVP caliber player should be coming into the league.
A former Doosan Bears, isn't he?
Yep, he got signed by OB at the time.
Yeah. MVP,
I
KBO
heard of
MVP.
him.
Yep. And rounding it out, Andrew Farrell, what's your nomination for this week? You've been teasing us all day, saying that you've got a legendary one. Is it better than the three we've had so far?
I'll leave that up to the wonderful people on my KBO and Twitter to decide. But as I said, in honor of Virgil composing himself for about 20 minutes and not getting the lawyers involved with explicits on the Hanwha Eagles, I would just like to nominate the long-suffering Hanwha Eagles fans who have to put up with. Since I came to Korea in 2009, that's 10 seasons of absolute garbage and one season of playoff baseball. And the thing I like about it most is, I don't know if you guys remember, but a number of years ago, there was a survey or a study of some sort, and they found out that a lot of baseball fans in Korea normally change teams every 7 years. It was some weird number like that. Like Bradley changes his team wherever finishes top, but normally fans will change every 7 years. And I can't imagine anybody jumping onto the Hanwha Eagles bandwagon if such a thing exists. So the fans who are turning up there every day at Hanbat Baseball Stadium they have to be considered the most loyal fans in Korea, that they're willing to keep going back day after day for a team that rarely looks like will finish bottom of the table. So that's to you.
That silence says everything. Moment of silence for the Hanwha Eagles. You know what? It would be on brand if that nomination ended up finishing last this week as well.
Yeah, it should be. And then they can just trade. I can just make a trade or something, and we get a no Suguan type trade in there, and make another suggestion next week. But I always love going to Hanbat. The last time I met Virgil there before, the Eagles swept the Tigers in a midweek series. And Hanbat, when you look at all the new ballparks in Korea, it's obviously really tacky and worn down, and it's in badly need of either a facelift or just to be completely demolished. But it's like rows that just seem to end. There's no explanation. A row of seats will just sort of end at this particular point. But as we were saying before we came on today, you can walk the whole way around the stadium, and the outfield seats, some crazy selection of seats in the outfield, like almost like diner-style tables and chairs or whatever. It's a really good place. It's a really, really good place to watch baseball. So they are in the process of building a new stadium, Daejeon. If you ever get the chance to go to a game, I'd highly recommend Daejeon. And I think Bradley Hyder's life changed after he went to a game, the Hanwha Eagles game before him.
I did. I wasn't going to bring that bit up, but the last time I was at a game, I took my best man out to the game to say thank you, and I got the most expensive seats. I mean, they weren't real expensive, but they were right behind home plate. We ended up being on television, and just one of many, many great moments at that ballpark. And I love going down to Daejeon. I'm in Daejeon frequently, but I get to a game usually 1 or 2 times a year. And I had many plans this year to get to some games. So I second what Andrew said. It's a great stadium, and it's a good night out.
There's one good thing I'd say about the Eagles. The Eagles have always had the best uniforms in this league. You guys agree with that? I like the orange, and I like that charcoal color one that they have too.
The best what?
Uniforms.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, the orange.
Yeah, and the one that
are we talking in general for the day-to-day uniforms or the specials? Because there's some phenomenal specials from other teams.
The day-to-day uniforms. The one that Virgil's wearing today, and the orange one that you'll see normally too. I think orange is such a unique color to wear for a sports team. I always thought that their uniforms are by far the best. The Tigers ones are awful. I think I haven't bought a Tigers uniform since 2012 because they look rubbish. But the Eagles ones are definitely much better.
Yeah. The black with the orange that you got right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a little interesting thing. The Hanwha Eagles changed from red to their current colors of orange, white, and gray after the 2006 season. The 2006 season was the last year that they won a playoff series. So
time to do away with that color, maybe.
I think maybe that's the reason. That's the curse. Is they lost in 2006 to Samsung in the Korean series, and I'm thinking maybe that they need to switch back to the old red and whites, and maybe that might be what their problem is. It may not be anything that I said it was today. It may literally just be that, obviously, like the Cardinals, the greatest color for a baseball team is red, and the baseball gods are holding it against Hanwha for leaving red to become orange.
Actually, speaking of playoff successes, the Tigers haven't won a playoff series to advance to the next round since they changed from Haiti to Kia. So they've won 2 Korean series in that time, but they haven't actually won like a playoff series to advance to the next level since Haiti sold the team to Kia, which is really, really strange. They've lost every playoff series that they've been in that they haven't finished top of the regular season since the team changed ownership. So like as we were talking about this with Rob Smith last week, I think people look at I've seen 2 championships here since I came over, but otherwise in almost every single other season they've been 5th to 8th or 9th in the table. It's not like they're a particularly successful team year to year in the last decade or so. But I admire the Hanwha fans. I've always had a good time down in Daejeon. I love the walk from Hanbak back to that area where there used to be a bar called Yellow Taxi. I think it's gone now. But there used to be that part of town was always a great walk back after a game there. Before we go, what do you guys all? I like when we do these podcasts and everybody's having a drink. What's in front of all you guys? You can tell all of your fans around the world what do you drink when you're doing a Grand Slam KBO podcast on a Sunday night.
Shall I go first with this one?
Yeah.
Well, I've had a couple of beverages while we were doing this. I started out with a Corona. Then I moved on to a Guam Brewery mango beer, which was horrible, and I would not wish on my worst enemy. And now I am on that classic of lambic ales, the Duchesse de Bourgogne, which I probably butchered the pronunciation, but it's a cherry sour ale from the Flanders region in Belgium. It's delightful.
Actually, your pronunciation sounded, I don't know if that was real or not, but that sounded, can you say that for us again, please?
Duchesse de Bourgogne.
That's great. That's really good.
You're welcome. Let's hear yours.
Well, I was going to say Bradley's actually replaced his picture with a bottle of wine and a can of Hop House. We'll ask for his explanation later. Virgil, what do you have? You brought in a couple of cans earlier on.
So I want to make a little announcement. When I'm watching Cardinals baseball, I only drink Budweiser. Obviously, like I cannot drink anything except Budweiser whenever I'm watching Hanwha, or when I'm watching Cardinals games, for a specific reason, which is why I like going to Kia, because they're the only stadium that sells Budweiser. Today I'm drinking a Patagonia Wise and a Jeju Pelong Ale.
Seeing those everywhere.
The Jeju Brewery is really good.
Yeah, but as in true baseball fan fashion, I am drinking my beer out of a baseball bat. From Dugout Mugs. I'm going to give a shout out to them, even though nobody in Korea can actually get one. I'm drinking my beer out of a hollowed out, authentic baseball bat.
So give us a little more detail about that. If people wanted to get those, if they're listening from the States.
So
we have a few people who can get them to us.
Yeah, so it's a company called Dugout Mugs. And you go to their websites, you can type in whatever you want, minus certain words that you can't put, that they flag in the system. Mine is actually I had mine put in Korean. It says Dreads number 67, which is the number and name that I wear on the back of my jerseys. They have all kinds of things, not just baseball drinking mugs, but they also have wine glasses and bottles and baseballs and everything for all kinds of drinking. So definitely recommend checking it out. You'll have to get someone in the US to get it to you, but you can definitely, they're amazing.
I'm sure Bradley's going to want to jump in on this in a second, because he's looking crazy excited while he's typing away and searching for this site. But why'd you end up picking the number 67?
I am actually, I'm a frat boy. I was in a fraternity when I was getting my master's degree back in Northwest Missouri State. Shout out to the Bearcats. And that is my bond number. So that is the number that I pick. This is the number I have on the back of these jerseys, the numbers I have on back of like my actual baseball jersey that I play with and everything. So that is the reasoning behind the 6-7. Although there is now a player for Hanwha that has 6-7, which angers me because now I'm not the only one.
You'll have to retire that number. Get the Eagles to retire that number for you. Actually, that site that you were saying there, I'm just having a look at it. Dugout Mugs. If we do manage to get something like this for the show, I can almost see somebody putting that in as a Hall of Fame nomination. Some of these bats look really, really cool. I'd love to get one for Bradley for his birthday, but I just don't know what team logo to put on it, because it'll probably be as soon as we pick it up.
You need a bunch of removable.
Just half and half it.
What are you drinking today, Bradley? I saw a Hop House 13 on the table there.
Well, I started off with a bottle of wine, which I shared with my wife. It's Baron Maxime 2018. Purchased at Costco. Does not break the bank. It's a
Baron Maxim
of France. I moved on to my favorite number, 13, Hop House. And for after the show, there's it's a very fancy, you can save a lot of money on drinking local beer, and you can spend the money you save on more expensive fancy beverages like this.
Please
one
tell
that
me it's not a
from
Litre.
Wolfenbüttel, Germany. You may have heard of it. It's called Jagermeister.
Oh God!
Speaking of frat boys, there you go.
I can feel the pain from here.
Yeah, I keep this under the table, out of the camera most of the time, but it's a good way to top off the show.
Wine, beer, then Jagermeister, you monster! On a Sunday night of all things.
Somebody doesn't want to work tomorrow on Zoom.
Apparently so. Andrew, what's been on your table? What's been in your glass today?
I've had an Apple Fox, and I was glad that some of you guys have had beers that also appear in the convenience store 4 for 10 selection. That was a previous nomination there for the Grand Slam KBO Hall of Fame. I like Apple Fox. I like summer. I like a cider in the summer with a glass full of ice. But I only had one in my fridge, and it's a controversial choice for beer number 2. Although Virgil was saying that he doesn't mind it. I'm now drinking a can of Terra because that's all that's in my fridge at the moment. The Australian Golden, whatever, Australian something it says on it. But yeah, this new Korean beer that I think replaced Height, it's okay. It's okay. It will do for a Sunday night podcast. That's all I can say for it. Before we let you guys all go, like there are games on at the moment. There's really no point in looking at the table or anything like this. But if it's always good to have a new person on as well, just to ask this question. But Virgil, if you had to pick right now who you think will take that last playoff spot, are your eyes on the KT Wiz?
I would say my eyes would say KT Wiz, specifically for one reason that has a problem with both teams, and that's their second for Lotte and for Kia is their second foreign pitcher. Both of those teams have their second foreign pitcher is not living up to the foreign pitcher standards, whereas KT, all 3 of their foreign players are producing. KT was 6th last year. They finally finished 500. I think this is the year that they make it to the playoffs. Now, do I think that they can beat Doosan, LG, Nexon, or I'm going to call them Nexon until I can't say it anymore. Nexon and NC, no. But they're going to make the playoffs finally.
Okay. Matthew, I see coming up this week, we have another Lotte versus Kia series to look forward to in Sajic. Anything less than 2 wins from 2 should be deemed a disaster for the Lotte Giants. Am I right, based on Kia's current form?
It depends on who's starting for Lotte. For some reason, Kia always seem to step up their game when they play against the Giants, be it in Gwangju or in Sajic. So I could actually see that being a split series.
And Bradley, the NC Dinos, your team, in the Go Chuck Skydome this week, that would have been an epic series to go see. And given the 2 teams in action, tickets wouldn't have been hard to come by either. That would have been a nice way to start the new week.
Yes. Oh, you're asking me who I think is going to win? I think obviously I want the Dinos to sweep the Heroes, but I think they'd be lucky if they can pull off 2 wins and 1 loss.
What does your magic coin say for this week?
Magic coin, like as in who am I cheering for?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh God, he hasn't got it with him. So let's hear it then. So Virgil, if you would have a magic coin, who would be the other face of it?
Yeah, well, there it is. There we go. Oh, Dinos it is. So let's go.
All right.
If I had a team besides Hanwha, who would it be?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It would be surprising. It would be KT.
All right.
I have KT phone, KT internet, KT HD TV or whatever. But KT, their first full year in the KBO was 2015, and my first full year in Korea was 2015.
Also, like it was meant to be.
Yeah, strangely enough, and I know I'm going to catch from this, Suwon's Park is my favorite place to go. Like when I go there, I have a different feeling when I get there. Like when I'm walking into the stadium and like, I just have like a different feeling comes to me as versus all of the other stadiums. Like obviously Hanwha, or Hanwha Sangmyeong Eagles Park has a different feel than all the other ones. But if like of all the road stadiums that I've been to, Suwon is actually my favorite stadium for some strange reason.
That's a fair call. It's a fair call.
I go down, pre-COVID times. I'm usually there minimum 2 Saturday nights per year. I agree. It's a great stadium. It's a good environment. And there are some good places to go out and visit and so on after the game as well. So it's good. I agree. It's a great ballpark.
Guys, it's been a long show today. It's been a long Sunday night. For anybody who's watching or listening to this who would like to follow you on Twitter, how can they do so, Mr. Hodges?
Most of my SNS is at DreadsRock, DreadsRock. For those that wonder, Dreads is in my hair and ROK is in Republic of Korea. So DreadsRock.
You spend a lot of time on Twitter talking about Korean baseball?
I don't spend too much time on it, but I do daily frequents. I actually get most of my MLB news from there with Gio and Daniel Kim, like some of the updates as far as like the KBO and Jiho's English articles, and then other little things that I could get in Korean and I could read and kind of understand, but when they're putting it in English for me, that's way less work that I have to do. So checking out that.
Thanks for giving us so much of your time on a Sunday as well. We appreciate it. Did you enjoy your first Zoom KBO, Grand Slam KBO podcast experience?
I definitely did. It's nice to talk baseball with people, especially people that understand the KBO, follow the KBO, and kind of not only understand just the KBO and baseball, but also understand how the Korean culture also fits in with the KBO specifically, where most of the people, on Twitter, they don't understand that stuff, where how it all mixes together.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Coming up in the near future, would you be interested? I'll dangle that little carrot out to you now. Reckon you'd be interested in joining in for the ranked uniforms episode when we look at Bingre and Hanwha uniforms? You seem to have a lot of insight into them.
Yeah, I could definitely partake in that. And unfortunately, one of my things with Hanwha is they don't offer a lot of yearly uniforms like the other teams, which is something that I hold against them, actually.
Well, we'll see what happens when we get that episode put together in a few weeks from now.
Is that Jagermeister nice, Bradley?
What's that?
The Jaeger nice?
It's great. I keep it in the freezer. You can see the frost.
That was just the face of pain right there.
It looked pretty bad. It's Sunday, August the 30th here in Korea, so I'm guessing we might see Bradley on the show maybe sometime at the end of September or early October, whenever he's available again. But thanks for taking the time to talk to us again today, Bradley.
My pleasure. Whenever I'm on the show again, by that time, I'm sure I would have gone through several teams, but I'm looking forward to it.
Good stuff, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the baseball this week. Hopefully the monsoons don't come back and have too many cancellations. Thanks again for all of your time. Last word to you, Virgil.
First of all, I would not sleep well tonight if I didn't do this, but I haven't been home since 2017, so I wanted to say hi, Mom. So I have to say hi to my mom, because otherwise she will disown me by the time I get back to the US. But thank you guys for having me. It's been an absolute experience. Definitely want to do it again if you guys throw out the offer.
We would love to have you on again.
And cheers to Miss Hodges.
Yeah, hello Virgil's mom, and make sure you send the link on to her, and she can pass it around to all of her friends and family too. Hopefully.
Very good.
Cool. Guys, thanks very much. Have a great week. And thanks to everybody for listening. Goodbye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
All right.